Down in Olympia, where I work, 2/3 of the folks are state representatives. They're called representatives for a reason. They want to, and it's their job to represent your interests. And so I think that they may dread it sometimes, that they do appreciate hearing from constituents so that they know how their people who vote for them want them to act.
This is Hourglass, the podcast for United Way of King County in Seattle. Coming up, a conversation about contacting elected officials. Folks say to write to your council members, your representatives, and your senators when you want issues addressed that you care about. Amid the current federal government shutdown and recent elections that have now sent new leaders to state and local offices, now seems like a good time to contact lawmakers. But how do you communicate your concerns to ensure they're heard? For this episode, we sat down with Nick Federici, United Way's anti-poverty policy advocate, to discuss the do's and don'ts of petitioning the people we elect to public office. We will also discuss our work to help provide food access to residents amid the fallout from the federal government shutdown and our upcoming free tax preparation campaign. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for tuning in. Like many nonprofits across the country, United Way of King County believes in encouraging residents to be civically engaged, namely by exercising the First Amendment right to hold all branches of government accountable to all people. The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says that we have a right to, quote, petition the government for redress of grievances, end quote. That means that we can, for example, write our legislators to express dissatisfaction with government policy and ask that our concerns be addressed. To that end, United Way has recently issued calls to action imploring residents to reach out to lawmakers regarding policies we believe folks should be concerned about. In an October Seattle Times editorial, we encouraged readers to contact their representatives in Congress and the U.S. Senate and urge them to end the federal government shutdown, send furloughed employees back to work, and restore funding to safety net programs. In a July United Way blog post, we asked people to request that Congress and the U.S. Senate vote no on the federal budget reconciliation bill that mandated some of the biggest cuts to federal nutrition programs in our nation's history. And in a February 2024 blog, we recommended King County residents join us in supporting a bill in the state legislature to support students re-engaging with the school system by providing them with resources such as school supplies, transportation, and childcare. Between those efforts, urging constituents to give public testimony at city council hearings, and joining advocates in meetings with legislators in Olympia, we've seen firsthand the benefits of petitioning our government for redress of grievances. Many policy wins around education and housing, food and financial security were due in part to people voicing their concerns to lawmakers. Amid our federal government shutdown and recent state and local elections that have sent new representatives to office, we will continue encouraging people to hold their leaders accountable. In this episode of Hourglass, we sat down with Nick Federici, United Way's anti-poverty policy advocate, to discuss petitioning our lawmakers. Nick has spent more than 28 years in government relations, working particularly on behalf of nonprofit organizations. We sat down with Nick to discuss topics including the do's and don'ts on writing one's representatives, the most effective communication, the most opportune time to reach out to your elected officials, and how to make your petition stand out among the many lawmakers receive on a regular basis. Here's what Nick had to say.
I would say the things that are important in writing your elected officials is, first of all, to be concise, because they have a lot of issues coming before them and only so much time to devote to that. And so being concise in telling them why you care about this issue, why they should care about this issue, and what is it that they can do to help you, so that you have that sort of complete package about getting their attention, gaining their interest, and then asking them to do something and hopefully getting some sort of action from them as a result. And in all of that, I believe it's important to be direct but kind, because people don't want to hear from people who are being mean to them. And they hear so much negative feedback from so many people, from constituents, from one another, from the media, from advocates. And so what actually stands out is a compassionate and yet direct approach to folks, because I think it makes them care more about what you have to say.
Great. And now, what are some of the don'ts?
Don't be accusatory.
Okay.
Don't be, don't assume that they are, have ill intent, or that they are disposed to do things negative. Lots of people, when they testify, particularly from the general public, will say things like, you only care about your campaign donors, or I know you're not going to do this because you're a Democrat or you're a Republican or whatever. And so I think not doing that and just coming in there as a concerned and interested citizen, rather than someone with an axe to grind. You definitely have something you want them to do and need them to do, but going in there without pointing the finger or without teeth gritted, I think is really important. And again, helps you rise above the discourse that others may be using.
Great. Now, nowadays, we have so many ways to communicate to elected officials. We're thinking about phone calling, texting, emailing, written letter, typed letter, messaging. Which is the most effective?
I would say, regardless of what you do, having it be personal is the most effective thing. So regardless of what your method is, to have it be personalized so it doesn't just sound like your AI, because there's all sorts of computer tools and AI bots and other stuff that now are entering the realm. And so the more that you sound like a real human, right? And the more you use your personal examples and again, it's all about what helps you rise above. And I think that the more work you put into it, the more that shows, right? I think people show the depths of their convictions through the extent of their actions. So, if it's easier, if it's harder, I think that the more effort you put into it, whether it's a personalized email rather than a form email or a handwritten letter. I mean, in the olden days, when I first started doing this, electronic stuff was the cutting edge. And so people would be like, oh, this person knows how to do this, that, or the other. I should pay more attention to them. Now, more old school stuff, right? The thing that's most effective is meeting with people in person, because it fully humanizes you. And again, you're taking the time to spend your valuable time and know how to connect with them in a way that's above and beyond, so to speak. So not to ask people to go too much above and beyond and, make a chore out of it. But the more you work, show your work. The more you show that you have put into this, the more they'll tell you care about it. And the more that will signal to them that they should care about it.
Okay, so now, what is the best time to reach out? Is it during session, or is it before, when you already know that there's an issue? When's the best time, and when are they most likely to respond to it?
I think it depends. The way I look at it is that during the interim, when they're not in Olympia, or if you're contacting someone at the federal level, they're not in DC, is the best time to contact them, because then they're sort of outward focused instead of inward focused, right? When they're on the job, so to speak, in the Capitol, they're grinding, right? They're working on what they're working on, and they have a very limited attention span to pay to things. And even then, that's a great time to contact folks, because it breaks them out of that grind to see somebody from back home, to get a handwritten letter or a lengthy email that is concise about the issue, but you can still tell that it's not written by a bot or something like that. And so I think all that sets you above and apart from the run of the mill. But I think the best time to contact people is earlier, because it gives you more of a ramp up before they start making decisions. It helps you get in their head around being the first person to talk to them about an issue, to raise it to their attention. You're automatically the expert on that issue to them because you're the guy that brought it to them. And so I would say, again, that the way you do it matters, but what you put into it matters more. And I'm always going to say that meeting with folks is the most important thing, because nothing, particularly in our post-COVID Zoom world, right, where so much is electronic, the more humanity that's in it, the better. And so emails are great. Handwritten or typed letters are fantastic. All of those are terrific. But, whatever provides that human touch to things and makes it real to them, I think is what's most important.
Now, you talked about length and the various ways of reaching out. How long should a person's message be?
I mean, I think there needs to be conciseness in the ask, so to speak. And so, it's like a lot of things that we all do professionally or personally, right? Put the, hi, I'm Joe Blow, and I'm writing to you about the state's food stamp program, right? Okay. And I'm concerned about my neighbors.
Okay.
And I believe that you should fully fund food stamps in Washington State.
Okay.
Please let me know how you feel about this and what you're planning to do about it. Right? And then you can put 10 paragraphs of stuff, about the why, but always have something up front that's short, concise, and direct. It's what I try to do when I testify or when I talk to legislators, because we all have a limited attention spans. And so being able to get that concise one paragraph, we call it the elevator speech, yes, right? That you can deliver very quickly is great. And then fill in the detail about why you care. When you grew up, you were on food assistance programs, and you know what this is like, and that enabled you to be a healthy, fully employed family and adult and all those things. Really lay it out in terms of those contexts, but start with that initial bullet of, again, why you care, why they should care, and what you need them to do.
Great. Now, should you...
excuse me.
No worries. Should you ask for a response? Should you ask them to reply, to confirm? And how? And if you do, what's the realistic expectation around receiving a response?
I mean, I always believe that you should have an ask and that you should ask for a response from them. Otherwise, you're just sort of shouting into the void, right. And so, if somebody asks, like legislators and other decision makers are like all of us, right? We have limited attention spans. We have limited ability to digest new information, especially if it comes from somebody that we're unfamiliar with. And so legislators act in the same way. How do they triage these types of things? If you just say, hey, this is my opinion, ... then they don't have a responsibility in the same way to respond to you. If you say, hey, I'm a constituent of yours, and I would like a response. Again, ask nicely, but directly, and I'd like, how do you plan to vote on this? What are your feelings on this? Elicit something that's more than a thank you for your input. It means, the sort of customer service, your call means is very important to us. I think that helps weed you in, so to speak, of folks that they're going to respond to. I mean, some folks just don't respond because they get a bazillion emails and a bazillion calls. And so I think that, but you should expect a response. And I think that if you don't get a response, again, I think it's not to ask too much of people, but you should follow up with them, particularly if it's something that you really care about. Again, what is it that sets you above and beyond the general run of people that are reaching out? Again, hi, I, wrote to you on, November 6th about this issue. Would love to hear about how you feel about this and how you're planning to vote. or if you need more information or whatever, right? That's the way I approach folks is, again, with that sort of open-ended but specific, hey, I'm not going away. I'm going to be nice, but, you can't ghost me.
Great, perfect. Now, how effective is it to reach out to a representative, regardless of, say, your political affiliation or even maybe your region? Like if I'm in Snohomish County and I border, say, Shoreline, which is in King.
Yep.
But I'm not in that county, but I'm really sensitive about what's going on there. I write to a King County representative or someone that is in that district. Mm-hmm. How effective is that?
I mean, I think if everything in terms of weighting, you're going to be weighted less than someone who's an actual constituent, right? I think regardless of partisanship, it's important to do because accountability is important regardless of, DR, independent, nonpartisan, what have you. And so, down in Olympia where I work, 2/3 of the folks are state representatives. They're called representatives for a reason. They want to, and it's their job to represent your interests. Mm-hmm. And so I think that they may dread it sometimes, that they do appreciate hearing from constituents so that they know how their people who vote for them want them to act. What are the important priorities? And for us as voters and as citizens, I think it's important for us to make sure that they know that so that they can be held accountable. So nobody can ever say, well, I didn't know. Nobody ever told me, right? So if you live in Snohomish County, I think that if you send something to a King County person, they may pay attention, but it'll probably be a tally mark on a sheet, right? As opposed to something that, we received this many inputs. Versus somebody who's a constituent who's a tier upward from you. Again, all men and women are created equal, but some are constituents and can vote for them, and some aren't. And that's ultimately the impediment to their behavior is what's the right thing to do? What do people want me to do? And what are the consequences for me failing to do that, or consequences in a positive way for me doing that? And so they're always going to be more sensitive to their constituents who, again, may go to whose kids may go to the same school as them, and who may go to the same church or synagogue or temple as them, or who, right? And so that, running into somebody in the grocery store who says, hey, I sent you an email 2 months ago. Oh, geez, man, right? Nobody wants that, right? That feels uncomfortable no matter how good we are. And that accountability, I think, is really important. And therefore, regardless of partisanship, it's good to reach out to those folks again. So nobody can say they didn't know that people in their district found, again, I'll just use food stamps and food assistance as an example, right? And while I never heard about it, I didn't know there was anybody in my district or in my city that cared about that. Well, now you do.
Okay, perfect. And then how often should one reach out about a particular topic?
I mean, you don't want to get pigeonholed as a frequent flyer, right? As somebody who's just cranky. And, I've worked in legislative offices, both in D.C. and in the state capitol. And there's some people that it's like, oh, here's so-and-so's thing again. And so pick your battles a little bit.
Okay.
Right now we have a lot of battles, unfortunately. But I think being able to consolidate those into as few communications as possible to have the most impact, because the more you do, the more you may get pigeonholed as somebody who's just a chronic malcontent, right? That being said, there's a lot of problems out there. And so I think consolidating things under a theme, right? Something that we at United Way obviously work on a lot is basic needs for folks. So when I'm meeting and talking to elected officials, I'm talking about meeting people's basic needs and the through line that connect the dots there, right? And so I'm talking to them about people who may lose Medicaid eligibility, people who are not being fed right now, or who may lose food benefits, the women, infant, and children's, food program, right? Homelessness and the potential decrease in the services there because of budget cuts or because of lack of money. And so that's a through line of I care about the most vulnerable in my community. It's not even me. I'm just being a good neighbor. I'm caring about my community, as you should, representative, city council person, what have you. Therefore, and again, as I said earlier, you want to tell them why they should care about your opinion and why they should do something about it. That accountability of, I'm a constituent, our kids go to school together, I've seen you at my Rotary Club, what have you, to establish that commonality with them so that you're somebody that they should care about your opinion, et cetera. The closer you are to them in that, either geographically or philosophically or community-wise, playing up on that harmony. And again, that's, as we talked about earlier, the positivity of that. I know you care about our community too. That's why I'm writing to you. There's nothing in it for me. I'm writing to you because I'm a concerned citizen and voter in your community. I know you. I've heard you and what you've spoken about. City councilman, county councilman, legislator. And so here's why I'm telling you that this is important to me, because I think you should care about this too. And here's what you can do for me and for those less fortunate, to our neighbors, for our community, et cetera.
Perfect. Last question. I'm listening to this, and I've always wanted to do this. Now you got me going. I really feel like I want to do this. What's the first step in the process?
First step in the process, good news is there are lots of ways to get information about the who, the what, and the why, in addition to the how that we're talking about here, Joe. And there's two great resources for that. One is the legislative website. So I do most of my work in Olympia, and so I'll use the legislature,
Sure.
State legislature as an example. And they have a website that's leg.wa.gov, and that has literally portals to anything that you would want to know about how to testify. What are the bills that are out there? You can even look up bills by and other issues by topic there. Who are my legislators? You can plug in your address and it'll pop up with the 3 legislators that represent you in case you don't know who those are. So really, really easy tools to use that I use as somebody who's been doing this for over 3 decades, multiple times a day. And they really are designed and award-winning to be easy for the general public. And, and so that's a great way to be able to access the information about what are the issues that are being discussed, what bills is my legislator sponsoring, when is the hearing on a specific issue that you care about, what's happening today in Olympia. And so it's a very easy to use resource that can tell you a lot about what's going on, including some specifics about how to testify, how to contact your legislator, both portals to 1-800 number that you can leave a message for all your legislators. Again, that human touch where they can hear your voice, and email portals to be able to email everybody from the governor to your legislators to whomever. And then the other great resource that ties in with the legislative website is TVW, either on your TV or at tvw.org. That stands for TV Washington. And so that's a resource where you can see, heck, you can go back and see me testify back in 1996 when I still had hair and less of a waistline. And so it's a great resource, and it'll show you live what's happening now. You can follow that stuff live. And again, it's a great, easy to use tool to see what's going on. If you've not met your legislator, right, you can watch them in action on the floor of the Senate or in a House committee or what have you, so that you can, it tries to provide you the tools for as much or as little as you want to glean from the process.
Perfect. Nick Federici, thank you so much for your time and being on Hourglass today.
Thank you, Joe.
For more information on reaching out to your policymakers at the city level, consult your city's official government website. For information on reaching King County legislators, log on to kingcounty.gov. For Washington state legislators, log on to leg.wa.gov. And for our Congress and U.S. Senate, log on to congress.gov. For some in our country, 2025 must seem like an ongoing struggle to keep food on the table. There's been the downsizing of the federal workforce, which led to the elimination of nearly 300,000 jobs. According to a Forbes article, cuts to federal agencies and grants, as well as the implementation of artificial intelligence amid concern over White House tariffs, are the leading cause of job losses this year. Then came the budget reconciliation bill, which mandated some of the largest cuts to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program in its history. Now, we are grappling with the federal government shutdown, which not only furloughed nearly 800,000 workers nationwide, but halted funding to SNAP and other federal nutrition programs. Even as the courts have ordered the federal government to replenish funding to SNAP, the 42 million Americans who rely on the benefits, including nearly 1 million in Washington state, are unsure as to when they will be able to truly rely on such benefits to come without interruption. At United Way of King County, we're continuing to work with partners to provide food assistance and address childhood hunger. During the federal government shutdown, we've distributed emergency grants to support food banks in King County, and we are working with the community on a broader response plan. We also annually tackle food insecurity through programs like home grocery delivery, breakfast after the bell, and summer meals. We also applaud the efforts of state and local governments to meet Washingtonians' needs. But we need your help. Log on to uwkc.org/donate and give to United Way's Our Neighbor Fund, which enables us to tackle issues such as homelessness and financial instability with bold solutions and community-driven programs to create lasting change. We also encourage you to reach out to your representatives in Congress and the U.S. Senate and urge them to continue funding federal nutrition programs and end the government shutdown. To reach your representative, log on to congress.gov. United Way of King County's free tax preparation campaign is gearing up for another tax season. Funded by United Way, the IRS, and the City of Seattle, United Way's free tax prep service is for individuals who make up to $80,000 a year or up to $96,000 for non-single filers. United Way tax prep specialists help clients understand their tax situations and take advantage of benefits such as the Earned Income Tax Credit and the Working Families Tax Credit. In 2025, United Way served 18,200 of our neighbors, helping them access more than $16 million in tax credits and refunds. United Way tax sites will open on January 25th, but currently we are seeking volunteers for more than 20 free tax prep locations throughout King County, including sites at the downtown Seattle Library and in South Center Mall, as well as our virtual tax site. Volunteers are fully trained and IRS certified. To sign up, log on to uwkc.org/taxvolunteer. At United Way of King County, we are working side by side with communities to build an equitable future for everyone. Hourglass United Way is a podcast that highlights how we and our partners spend time making a difference in our communities. Our work is made possible by the generous donations from people like you. Please send comments and suggestions about our podcast to hourglassunitedway@gmail.com. To learn more about our work or to support United Way, log on to uwkc.org. I'm your host, Joe Burris. Thanks for listening. Until next time.